Thank you for joining us for our extended conversation here online on the county seat. We are talking with Sheriff Jim Tracy, Sheriff Jim Winter, Mark Thomas, who's the county attorney from Uintah County. We spent a half hour on the air, and we really, this is one of those issues where we didn't really get a lot of the details covered. What do you see that are the key components, each of you, that Representative Hutchings or this bill needs to get put into to get it to be at least a good workable start? Because as you said, Sheriff Winter, the concept's good, the details are just grossly lacking. So if you could write it, what would you put into it?
Well, again, more clarity on how we're going to get to the end result. There's so many parts of this that if it doesn't all go through as one complete bill, then there are additional unknowns that will happen if part of this goes through and the legislature rejects another part. That would put us in something that we don't have any numbers on based on the numbers that we did get and the projections we got based on it all going through. The other big thing is this is tied to Healthy Utah immensely. If Healthy Utah does not go through, then there's an elimination of the prospect that those who are in incarceration can qualify for Medicaid, and then a big chunk of money for treatment goes away, and this will fail.
This has always been a big problem for you. I mean,
He's done an excellent job in summarizing the complexities, but if I were to suggest a definitive solution, it is A, fund dollars for counties to get into risk needs assessments in the jails. That is critically needed in every aspect. And the second thing is fund us to get into the probation business, because we need to begin to manage these offenders that come out of our jails in our communities. Otherwise, we have no control over recidivism, period.
Yeah, and I think really they've said a lot of important things. The reality is there's got to be that blending. You can't just reduce the level of offense and say it's all taken care of, because again, those people have to be able to reach the resources. If it's reduced to a lower offense, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to go to the treatment. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be supervised. Those things have to be tidied up. We have to know where the funding's coming from.
you know, part of this sounds to me like when the Department of Transportation redid the freeways in Salt Lake Valley for the Olympics. They took the traffic jam from 21st South and they re-engineered it to push it down to I-215, basically. Could this only be a temporary reprieve if we don't do it correctly? Because they'll go through the misdemeanor loop and they'll be right back at felony status?
Well, I think your analogy is dead on. They did a design-build model. That was the euphemism at the time. And,
yes.
And the danger is criminal justice is not something you want to do that with. Yeah. The mechanisms are in place and frankly must be to protect people's rights and to ensure that the system continues to function, and it needs to be addressed with those that understand the system and be built before it's implemented.
And I think drug courts are a good example. Exactly. If you look at the history of drug courts, the history of drug courts is they built those from the model of the judges, prosecutors, defense attorneys, and treatment people coming together and saying we can do this better. What I fear is happening is this is more of a theoretical approach. Mm-hmm. They're saying, well, we think this will work based on statistics. And so they need to now come to the folks who are on the ground working the system and saying, now, from a theory standpoint, how do we implement that to get what we need? Yes. And they haven't done that yet. That is a critical aspect.
Well, I mean, the Salt Lake County Drug Court program is, it's got a pretty good track record. Couldn't you just lift that from its felony status and move it over and make that model work at a misdemeanor level?
Short answer is no. Drug court models, they're high risk, high needs. And if you shift that to somebody who has a low risk, high need, it can actually be worse for them. You got to have a slightly different model, so it doesn't just cross over exactly. But again, we need to have that conversation with the people on the ground so that we can build the infrastructure, not just from a theoretical standpoint.
Is your biggest fear is that this will get cockeyed and sideways and it'll never come back?
That's my fear. The danger, we're not real good, in my opinion, at turning dials and being willing to do new paradigms. And so we tend to be resistant to that. Here's an opportunity to do that. The question is if it doesn't occur and we all find flaws in it and there's no way to move forward, then when's the next time we're going to be willing to do that? I mean, these opportunities come around at fairly low frequency. And I do think that in the counties, we are looking for alternatives. We really do want to be in a different business than the business we're in right now. That's my opinion.
I agree.
Very good.
There's always room for improvement.
Gentlemen, thank you for joining us online. Thank you for coming back and tuning in to join us. Remember, local government is where your life happens. An invitation to you to be part of the solution by being engaged and involved. Make sure you let your friends know about this program. Encourage them to tune in and listen to this episode in its entirety. And be sure to have a conversation with your legislators and your county officials about it. We thank you for joining us on the county seat. We'll look for you next time. Until then, have a good week. If you like this video, then we invite you to subscribe to our channel, The County Seat. You can do that here. And we invite you to share with your friends. We also invite you to get all the latest up-to-date information by following us on our social media channels. And if all else fails, make sure that you watch The County Seat Sunday morning at 8:30 right here on ABC4 Utah.